to the right, caught over the middle, and into.
He's at the 45. Are you kidding? Oh, he's gonna go!
Trading his head, the ball is out. Philadelphia has
it. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter channels. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Check out the link tree in our bio, and it'll take you to every social media platform we are available on. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my co-host, Scotty. And down below, my man from 97.5 The Fanatic and the Locked On Phillies podcast, Connor Thomas. Guys, if you don't already, make sure you check him out on Twitter @ConnorThomas975. Dude, we've had you on every week leading up to this long, glorious road. Had to have you back on for Super Bowl week.
Listen, man, I don't want to say it's me, but I started coming on here when the Phillies made their run. Now I'm on here for the Eagles run. I don't want to take all the credit because Hurts is doing a lot, Sirianni's doing a lot, but I better be on a bus come the parade when they win this thing.
Right. There's got to at least be 1% of the poll going to Connor Thomas for his help.
I'll take 1%. I'm good with that.
Yeah. We'll get you back on around Sixers playoff time and see if the luck can continue.
There we go. Got to get
the
Sixers
on. I got to ask you, before Scotty gets into his first question, we were saying this before we started here. Have the nerves kicked in for you? Or are you not? Because I'm not nervous, and I don't know if that's because it's been a long 2 weeks and maybe Sunday they'll settle in, or am I just confident? Like, how where's your mind space at right now?
You know, it's weird. I'm kind of getting there a little bit to where I wouldn't call it nerves, but just like the actual gravity of the game is starting to set in.
Right.
But I was talking with a buddy of mine who he's a converted Eagles fan. He's from Maryland. I went to school with him. He never really had a team growing up. And he was a Hurts guy from the beginning. He's got a number 2 Hurts jersey. So he was on Hurts from the beginning. And he sent a text to our group chat after the NFC Championship game saying, Connor, I'm new to this Eagles fan thing. When do the games start getting difficult? And it's a fair point because it felt easy, right? It's almost felt boring to this point because they haven't played a close game in the playoffs. So, you know, it's hard to really get yourself in that mindset of the 2017-2018 run was close game against Atlanta. And we thought Minnesota, at least they came out and did something on the first drive. And then you see Tom Brady and you're like, okay, well, we know we're in for a fight. This has felt easy. So if you're not feeling the nerves, I don't think you're alone. It's just this has been business as usual for the Eagles. And frankly, as good as the Chiefs are, this team has given you nothing to think that they're going to put up a stinker in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kick off the first question from myself here, which is nice to meet you, Connor.
Hey,
nice
good to meet you too,
Scott.
Scott.
On the show here with you, man. Yeah. Hopefully we do get you in here for the Sixers as well. We need that luck streak on our side. But nonetheless, kind of piggybacking off of what we just talked about, how surreal is it right now that the Eagles are in the Super Bowl? Like they've been led by this second year starting quarterback, right? Second year head coach. So early in their careers, they're already playing in a Super Bowl here in Philadelphia. How surreal is that, and how big of an accomplishment should that be appreciated for?
Okay, so I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here with this one because when coming into this season, I do Eagles postgame over on 97.5 The Fanatic. I talked about this prior to the season starting. There were so many similarities between this team and what happened in 2017. Second-year starting quarterback, second-year head coach. Big offseason, a lot of acquisitions. You go out and you get a big body wide receiver in their prime that you can trust. A.J. Brown probably has a lot longer of a prime than what Alshon Jeffrey gave you here. But there were so many similarities between this year's roster construction and that 2017-2018 team. So I always thought they had a shot. That being said, you can't ever expect Jalen Hurts to take the jump that he did. You can't ever expect Nick Sirianni to go from being a good coach last year, well, the second half of last year, to being the coach of the year this year, in my opinion. So it was a big jump, but the breadcrumbs have been there the whole time. I'll tell you what I didn't expect for sure, though, and I talked about it already, how easy this road has been for them. They've made light work of everybody they've run up against, and that's the most surprising thing to me is how easy it's been that they got here. Not necessarily that they're here, but the path.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. You talked a little bit there about Jalen Hurts and kind of surprise. That's one thing we can all agree, kind of that jump, right? We knew he would get better. We didn't know he would get MVP caliber better, right? You surround him with the talent, but there's been a lot of talk throughout the playoffs. He hasn't even eclipsed, 200 passing yards yet. To be fair, he hasn't needed to.
Right.
Is there any concern there about Jalen Hurts, the passing game? His throwing shoulder is really what I'm getting at here. Are there any concerns with that limiting him against the Kansas City Chiefs? And do you think that they'll need that?
Yeah, I'm not remotely concerned about the shoulder. It's been so long since he's had that injury. What is it? Nearly 2 months now at this point?
Right.
Because it was Chicago way back when. I'm sure he's fine with the shoulder. It may still be a little bit sore, but everyone's banged up. Mahomes is banged up too. You got multiple guys playing through injuries on both sides. So I'm not worried about the shoulder. As far as his ability to, like, let's say, I think the ethos of your question is if it turns into a shootout with Mahomes, like, does Hurts have the ability to do that? Because we haven't really seen him throw all that much. Yeah, I mean, we saw him do it against Tennessee. We saw him do it against Green Bay. We saw it multiple times in the regular season. But you're right, he just hasn't had to in the playoffs so far. He's more than capable. And also, this may not be a fair way to compare it, right? But after what we saw in 2018 with Nick Foles outdueling Tom Brady with that game Brady put up, I'm not willing to write off anything in the Super Bowl because we know the craziest things can happen on this stage. But yes, Jalen Hurts is capable of having that type of game if he needs to, and he might not need to.
Yeah, so going off of that, we know that the Eagles are more than capable of playing smash mouth type of football on the ground. Do you look for them to run on Kansas City or attack that weaker secondary with Jalen's arm that you may or may not be worried about?
Yeah, well, Kansas City's run defense is bad, flat out bad. Their secondary is average. So I'd be surprised if run first wasn't the mentality, especially considering how they've attacked both the Giants and the 49ers on this playoff run. I mean, when you look at your best offensive lineman, in my opinion, which is Lane Johnson, being hampered with that adductor injury, which he retore in the Giants game, played through in the San Francisco game, it kind of behooves you to get after the defensive line rather than pass blocking more. So it helps your offensive line. It helps Jalen Hurts because that really opens up his opportunity to do those read option plays, the RPOs too. So they're better when they're a run-first team. That doesn't mean they won't get into passing if it's a tighter game. But I'd expect the start of the game to look very similar to what you saw against San Fran, very similar to what you saw against New York, in that get the ball into Sanders, Gainwell, Boston Scott's hands, Jalen Hurts, couple design runs, and start it that way.
So you mentioned the running backs. With that said, which skill position player do you think gives Kansas City the most problems on Sunday?
Oh, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown easily. That man has got to be fuming inside for what he's not done. Yeah, I know. And he hasn't really been shut down. He just hasn't gotten the opportunity. Like, Jalen Hurts is touching the ball every play. So even if he doesn't have to air it out, he's still handing the ball off. He's getting his runs. He's getting his touches. A.J. Brown doesn't when you don't throw the ball, and he hasn't needed to, but that pisses a receiver off, especially a guy that's outspoken like A.J. Brown, like we know he is. So I'd expect him to have a big day Sunday. And the Chiefs do not do well against slants. They don't do well against those like quick hit intermediate routes that A.J. Brown runs a lot of when he's not going deep. So I think it's a big day for number 11.
Gotcha. Love to hear that. Big AJ guy over here. So definitely would love to see him have a big game. You talked a little bit about the Eagles offensive line, obviously Lane, Kelsey mixed in there. You have the Dickerson injury. He's a little beat up. They were able to, neutralize New York Giants. They have the monster Dexter Lawrence in the middle there. You go to San Fran, you have the front seven, right, with Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. Where's your confidence level that the Eagles offensive line is going to be able to take care of business against Chris Jones and Frank Clark and company on this Kansas City line?
See, I don't understand how people keep worrying about Chris Jones, considering what this line has done all year. No disrespect. He's a great player. This offensive line is unbelievable. You know what it is? It's in Philadelphia. We've always got to take the hard way to a championship. It's always got to be difficult. Anytime we get one in the rare circumstances, it's never the easiest path. And even when you get the easiest opponent like the Phillies did in 2008, you got to wait 2 days through a rain delay to even clinch the final game. So it's weird to just sit here and be like, this offensive line is just unstoppable. But it really is. It's the Steph Curry Warriors. It's the back in the day, like the early 2000s Yankees. That's what this Eagles team is. And it starts with the offensive line. So, no, I'm not worried about Chris Jones. I'm not worried about you can reanimate Deacon Jones. It doesn't matter. This line is blocking everybody. So, yeah, I feel good.
Awesome. Let's keep it in the trenches. So we'll just move to the other side of the ball now. A lot of talk, a lot of initiative being taken over the last few years by the Kansas City Chiefs in trying to improve that offensive line in front of Patrick Mahomes. Do you think that their offensive line is going to be able to contest with our historic defensive line that the Eagles are boasting up here? And then a side question to that, does it matter with the way Patrick Mahomes gets the ball out so quick? Are you worried about that at all?
Yeah, I don't think their offensive line is going to have success against this defensive front, but you're right. Mahomes he's too tough to bring down. That's the tough thing about the defensive line. Like, they're the most important part of this game to me because I think they're going to have the toughest time making the impact they normally do. Getting Mahomes on the ground 2 or 3 times would be a good day from them to me. It's going to be tough. We're not going to see the typical dominance from the defensive line. And it won't be because the Chiefs' O-line is good. It's because Mahomes is just so hard to get down. He gets the ball out quick. I remember I talked to Dylan last week about Brock Purdy, or 2 weeks ago now with the week off, and saying if he gets the ball out quick, it may be hard to get him on the ground.
49ers fans are still saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they can say it. They got a long offseason to say that all they want. But you remember the game against the Giants where they played the backups. Who was the guy they put out there? Why can I not remember?
The Giants.
Oh, yes.
Webb.
Davis Webb.
Yeah.
You couldn't sack him because he just run back 40 yards and just throw the ball out of bounds. Mahomes will do that. The issue is he'll complete that pass 50 yards down the field. So, yeah, it'll be a tough day for the defensive front. And I don't think that's any fault of theirs. Just a nod to how good he is.
So you mentioned earlier on in one of your responses about the road being so easy. And that's been a lot of the talk all regular season. The Eagles have played nobody. They're not battle tested. Same thing here in the postseason, right? But that's coming from outsiders for the most part. Talk to us about their test versus the Chiefs and what the Eagles will have to stop to win this game. So you just mentioned Patrick Mahomes kind of outside of the pocket and just playing schoolyard kind of backyard type of football. Is it Pacheco? What do you look at for this Eagles defense to have to stop in this one?
There's 2 guys. Stop 15, stop 87. Kelsey cannot kill you. Mahomes cannot kill you. Those are the only guys you have to be focused on. I'm not worried about Juju Smith-Schuster. We know Mecole Hardman's not playing in the game.
And cheesesteaks.
Yeah, exactly. Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't scare me. I mean, they've had a rotating door at running back all year long over there at Kansas City. I know because I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my fantasy team. But I don't know. Running backs haven't really killed the Eagles this year since they brought in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. McCaffrey only had that one run against them last week, and otherwise he was pretty well neutralized. I'm really looking at their 2 guys and saying to win this game, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you better have multiple touchdown passes to Kelsey, and you got to have something else wild happen, like some blown coverage to get the ball to one of your other wide receivers, because there's no one else on that Kansas City offensive side that scares me overly compared to how good this Eagles defense is.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. You mentioned one half of the Kelsey Bowl there. So you mentioned Travis Kelsey. Obviously, we have the brother Jason Kelsey here in Philly. When you look at that, which Kelsey brother is more important to their team in this game? When you look at Jason Kelsey on the offensive line, and then obviously Travis Kelsey, the main target for Kansas City.
I love Jason, but I mean, we know how much the skill position players can make an impact in the Super Bowl. Like, let me ask you, what would be more surprising to you? The Super Bowl ends with Travis Kelsey as the Super Bowl MVP or Jason Kelsey as the Super Bowl MVP?
Right.
That's a fair way to put it.
It's just flat out more impact from his position. And it's a coin toss to who's actually even better because they're both so great at what they do. Love Jason, but the offensive line for the Eagles is so good in general. It's hard to point to his success individually at points, whereas Travis Kelsey's a one-man wrecking crew when he gets the ball. So I got to give it to 87, but hopefully he doesn't get a chance to do that this weekend.
So I got one more question to throw in here for you before we get into our your prediction and Super Bowl MVP. I'm sure, obviously, you saw the clip of Gannon rolling up to the NFC Championship game, rolling his window down, and we're about to effing gut them, right? And you and I have had a lot of conversations, probably over the last year and a half, about Jonathan Gannon. And, you had said on the show before, whether he's great or whether he's really bad, he's probably not going to be back as the Eagles defensive coordinator. He made some comments that he's back. That comment, what he did to San Fran, what he's doing in this playoffs. Are you sold on Jonathan Gannon now? And how much? And how do you think the defense performs overall in this Super Bowl?
First off, I cannot believe he's back. I can't believe this guy isn't getting hired somewhere. Part of that, to me, says that it's a him decision to not go take another job. I think he had a really good look at the Texans job. I get D'Amico Ryan's very deserving, and probably more deserving than Jonathan Gannon, honestly, with the track record. But I look at some of the positions open out there, and it's surprising to me he's back with how good this defense has been this year. Glad he's back. 100% in on him since watching that video. That's never turned my opinion around on someone faster. That's such a Philly thing too. That's so dumb of me. Like I'm in a position where I talk on the radio. I'm supposed to have all these analytical takes, and I can't help the Philly fan in me that says
he fired me up one day.
I'm all the way in.
One Sunday afternoon, he said one line that got me going.
That's it, though, right? That's all it takes. Mike Scott was a legend in this town for going into the stands and drinking a drink up in Milwaukee mid-game. Like all it takes is one
and he
moment.
fought a couple Eagles fans.
Yes, correct. Forgot about that one too. Miss Mike Scott.
It shows you like a little teaser to his personality, though, like the way he can be with his own guys. So I think that's why it makes you like him.
Because for the longest time, he was just this stonewall, punchable face. Bad coordinator last year, in my opinion. Like, you hated the dude. And now he's got, like, this sense of humor. He's going to effing gut them. Like, it was awesome to hear. I'm surprised he's back. And I guess I'm just looking at him, and we bashed him for so long. And by the end of Jim Schwartz's tenure, we were ready to get removed from him. And you look how bad our defense was against Brady. And you had mentioned Foles versus Brady earlier. So it's really like anything could happen. Hell, he could come out and somehow gut and slow down Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, man. But one more small one to throw into you. Is this a must-win game?
Yes, this is a must-win game. I love that question. I don't get the people who get annoyed at it. It's always funny to me. Maybe that's my dumb, simplistic brain, but, man, I love when people ask coaches that. It shows you their reaction, like the personality of the guy. Yeah, you guys saw Sirianni's answer, too? He straight up answered it seriously. He was like, we're here to win the game.
Yeah. And then next question, please.
Yeah.
All right, man. I know it's Wednesday. I haven't heard if you've given out your prediction on the air yet. I'm not sure you have. Do you got one for us, or do you want to save it?
I'm gonna go ahead. I'll give you one.
All right.
It's gonna be a high scoring game. And I do think Jonathan Gannon's defense has a little bit of trouble with Mahomes. And I think it's tight down to the very end. But I'm going 34-28. Your Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl 57 champions.
Who's the Super Bowl MVP?
You know who it is already. It's number one.
Hold him up.
It's number one. First of all, it's always the quarterback. But, oh, man, can't you just see it right now? Just standing up there, dead silent, like stone faced for a second. Then when he goes to lift that trophy, just flashes that grin. Knew it the whole time. Always believed in himself. Oh, man, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
So am I, because I was, and Scotty, you know this, and I might have said this to you last year. Like, I was not in on this kid at all. Not a lot of people were. There were always the blind supporters that just believed he was going to be a top 2 quarterback no matter what. But I talked with a couple people during Aaron Judge's season this year about how great of a season this was and buying in on yourself because, not taking that contract and he goes and breaks the record or whatever. It's very similar to this situation. No one believed in this kid. No one coming into this year looked at Jalen Hurts like, oh, Super Bowl MVP. And now this is where we're at a couple days away. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure the jitters and the nerves will settle in about 4:00 on Sunday. But my man, appreciate you for coming on again. And hopefully we can talk next week or in the next couple weeks about our Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
That'd be awesome. And if I could plug real quick while I'm on here, we got a special pregame show for the Super Bowl. I've been doing postgame all year. We're making the flips so I can drink for the game, and I'll see you guys on Broad Street. But as importantly, it'll be myself, Andrew Salchunas, the Chunas, and Pat Egan. So the young guns running pregame over at 97.5 The Fanatic. So we'll have that the day of the Super Bowl. So that'll be the rest of it.
We might have to call in for you. We'll call in.
Yeah, we'll give you a call in.
You guys know where to find me. You're always welcome.
See you down at Broad Street, though, nonetheless.
Yes, sir. At Conor Thomas 975. Go check him out. And at Locked On Phillies, brother. Appreciate you and talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you.
Have a good one, man.
All right, Scotty. With that being said, we are going to be joined by Conor Myles, not to be confused with Conor Thomas, in just a few moments. So, guys, stay tuned for that interview right here on @DSM_media.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk right here on DSM Media. We are back with a very special guest, my good friend from back when I first got into content creating, my man Conor Myles. You guys may know him from Eagles Unfiltered podcast. You can find that at Eagles Unfilter on Twitter. And he also writes for Sports Illustrated Now. You can find some of his work on at SI Now on Twitter. And of course, you can find Conor Myles, C0, and then the rest of the name, Conor Myles, on Twitter, nonetheless. But how are you doing today, Conor?
Good. Quite the intro there, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, man. Good to talk to you, Dylan and Scotty again.
Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Super Bowl week. Got to get into
Yeah,
it.
I know, man. I can't wait.
Awesome.
It's crazy. We're talking about the team that like never always would fall short in the NFC Championship game, and now we're talking about them being in the Super Bowl for the last 6 years, 2 Super Bowls the last 6 years.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's surreal.
It's insane.
Like,
Had the nerves hit yet for you?
Yeah.
I am a little anxious because I honestly truly believe they're going up against the best quarterback talent of all time. I truly believe Mahomes is the best quarterback talent of all time. No matter if he's hurt or he's 80%, he's still better than 100% of the league, no matter what.
Right.
So, no matter what, you always got to be fearing him, and then you got to fear Andy Reid. I mean, he is Andy Reid. Like he's arguably. I don't know. I really think you can make an argument he's the best coach of all time. There's a fair debate for it. So
it's in that combo. Yeah.
But again, I mean, I watched this Eagles team that everybody doubted go against the greatest quarterback of all time, accolades wise, and the greatest head coach of all time, accolades wise, and beat them still.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, the confidence is flowing. This is the most cocky Eagles team I've ever seen. So I really
and I love it
in a good way, though.
Well, in a good way because it pours over to the field.
Yeah.
Like they have 100% right to be cocky. That's why I always laugh when I hear these 49ers players say something, or these other players say something about the Eagles. Their ride through the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah, they rode through the playoffs, but they didn't ride through the playoffs by like 3 points. They rode through the playoffs, scoring 69 points in 2 games. Like they spanked these teams.
Right.
They made the Giants look like they shouldn't be in the playoffs. They made Kyle Shanahan. They pantsed Kyle Shanahan. Completely pantsed Kyle Shanahan. And it's so funny to me when I listen to these 49ers players talk or these 49ers fans, and I'm like, no wonder Kyle Shanahan gets away with always falling short each year because you guys don't know what accountability is.
That's
crazy because
that's exactly what it is.
Because number one, your fault that you went into that game with Josh Johnson as your backup. That's your fault. You could have had you had Trey Lance injured for a while. You had Jimmy Garoppolo injured for a while. You could have prepped a better backup quarterback behind Brock Purdy that understood your system. I promise you. Especially with let's just say this trade deadline went down. The Colts were tanking. This Colts didn't give a shit. They could have got Matt Ryan. They could have said, you know what, we're in a bad situation. Matt Ryan's been benched for Sam Ehlinger already. He could understand the situation of playing behind Brock Purdy. He knows Kyle Shanahan's system. But no, Kyle Shanahan trusted the guys that he had, and he trusted his backup tight end to block the best pass rusher in the NFL this year. That's your fault. That's the reason why you guys lost, and that's the reason why it was by that many points.
That's because he loves to hear how he won with a third-string quarterback and how he won with a backup quarterback.
And I watched Doug Peterson with Nick Foles against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick cry me a fucking river. Like that's all I got to say about that stuff because it
started off with a bang.
It's so funny hearing all these guys talk about it. I'm like, now I understand why Kyle Shanahan has so much of a long leash in San Francisco when he falls short all the time because San Francisco fans and their players don't know what accountability is. So he's going to be comfortable over there, falling short each time. That's fine. You guys enjoy that. I'm going to enjoy watching the Eagles play in the Super Bowl this weekend.
Let's go. Yes. So you mentioned a word earlier, Conor. By the way to start the show off with a bang here. I appreciate that. I appreciate that fire because I'm feeling you there. I'm feeling you.
I'm tired of it. You see all the disrespect, and I'm like, I would understand the disrespect if we're the Minnesota Vikings and we're complete frauds. Like, and we won this many games, and we're a really bad team, and we were just frauds.
Yeah. And
we only squeaked by 3 points this whole entire postseason run. I'd understand that then, but don't tell me we're getting lucky when I'm watching. The Dallas Cowboys scored 12 points on that San Francisco defense, and Brock Purdy played like crap.
Yep.
I was looking forward to playing Brock Purdy because of how bad he played against the Dallas Cowboys defense. The Eagles' #1 turnover defense in the league would have took advantage of those turnovers that Dallas dropped Trayvon Diggs.
Correct.
So I was looking forward to playing Brock Purdy. So that's why I'm laughing. You hear all these excuses and all this stuff, but I'm like, man, they beat the brakes off of these teams.
Yep.
So it wasn't like they got lucky.
With all that being said, Connor, you used a word earlier. You used the word surreal. How surreal is it that this team that we're talking about, the Philadelphia Eagles, their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, right? Third-year quarterback, second-year starter. You have a second-year head coach in Nick Sirianni. How surreal is it that these two have been able to lead this Eagles team to the Super Bowl this year?
I really think it's more surprising about Nick Sirianni than it is about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was always destined for this. He's always destined to be a great player. Like, I think Tom Brady, it's crazy because I'm not trying to compare the players or anything and say they're anything identical because they're not. But you look at all these quarterbacks and their great stories throughout the league, like Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, all these guys that were backups in college, doubted the whole way. And there always was a spark in them that they knew that I don't have to listen to anybody else. I got to believe in myself and I'll make it. And look what happened when Jalen Hurts has believed that the whole entire time. He's a second-year starter in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, that's – you can doubt a player all you want, but if that player believes in himself and has enough talent to get through, I'm telling you guys, it's going to pan out. And that's what I really do think. At the end of the day, that's what Howie Roseman saw in Jalen Hurts. We always have this talk about insurance for Carson Wentz. He was always injured, blah, 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 blah. I really think that you can make an argument that there was buyer's remorse after that extension, and they needed to have another way out just in case they needed that way out and it was going to come.
Yeah.
And they knew it was you don't draft a quarterback in the second round unless you fear the future. And luckily that he made that decision anyways, because the future is bright now that he made that decision. Because Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback. He is it. He has every it factor you can possibly need from a quarterback. Like Jeffrey Lurie told everybody, he has nothing left to prove. He had nothing left to prove 3 games prior to this. They knew he was the guy. They knew it. Right before he got injured in Chicago, they said, doesn't matter what happens from here on out. This is our franchise quarterback. We're going to pay him. Everything else he's done from this standpoint has been a blessing. Now, Nick Sirianni, nobody interviewed him as a head coach. It was just the Eagles. Nobody knew who he was. He was an offensive coordinator on the Colts, not even calling plays. It was Frank Bright. So that is the most surprising to me, is that they were able to find a guy that is truly a leader of men that can divert and become just a head coach of this team and say, hey, I'm going to hire a guy to call plays. Because that's the one thing that I think that separated him from Doug. Doug had the ego where he goes, I'm going to make sure that everything, I have control of all this. I have control of this whole entire side of the ball. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Nick Sirianni goes, I'm going to get input from Brian Johnson. I'm going to get input from Zane Steichen. I'm going to get input from Aaron Moorhead. I'm going to get input from Jamel Singleton. I'm going to get input from Jeff Stoutland. Like, that's what's really surprising to me the most, because when you're a young head coach in this league, you want to make a name for yourself, especially at that age. Yeah. I don't know why people don't realize this or don't give him the credit for this, but Nick Sirianni's in Sean McVay territory for what he's doing. Being so young and being so successful this quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the only main reason for it is because he's a leader of men, and he was able to divvy off tasks and be the head coach of this team. And that's what the most surprising thing to me is, because when you're a young head coach and you're known as an offensive mind in this league, usually those coaches just want to come in and take over the team and call plays and do what they got to do to be right in front of the headlines all the time. And that's just not what Nick Sirianni has done. He's built a foundation to build upon. Now, that makes me more confident that with James Steichen goes ahead and moves on to the Indianapolis Colts, that the contingency plan, which I 100% know it's going to be Brian Johnson, but that contingency plan is going to work because Nick Sirianni's never going to dabble in it. He's going to let Brian Johnson be Brian Johnson. He's going to let James Steichen be James Steichen. Like, he's not going to put pressure on them and say, I'm going to take away your play calling duties. I'm going to take them back now. I need that. Like, it's never going to be that situation. And so that's why, I have so much confidence in this foundation he's built going forward. But that's what's the most surprising thing to me about that, because he started off 2-5, and you're thinking this is going to be he's going to be one and done, and now he's second year in the Super Bowl. I think he's the biggest surprise. Jalen Hurts was always meant for this. We were just blind to it.
I was as well. But you said a very important thing earlier. I think you said you can doubt the player, or you can question the player. You damn sure can question the player, but you cannot question the person. And I think Jalen Hurts, throughout this offseason and throughout his career and his college career and his young pro career, has transformed and has translated the person over into the player. And I think that's the biggest difference. And the jump that you've seen probably this year in his game is because the person took more control than the arm and the question marks that were there before.
I think his fire's just fueled because nobody's going to tell him what he is or what his ceiling is. I think we're just feeling the fire because we always, replaceable. Is he the franchise quarterback? Is he worth a second round pick when he was a third round prospect, fourth round prospect? Is he a running back? Can he even throw the ball? Is he accurate? Like, just kept feeling the fire, and nobody was going to ever tell him what he was going to be, and he showed that this year. I mean, this is the best is yet to come from him. I mean, look, his shoulder's still banged up, and that's the main reason why they've scaled him back in the playoffs. And another reason why is they have such huge leads in these games. Why would they pass it up? That's ridiculous. That'd be stupid play calling. But his shoulder is still banged up, but he's still effectively running with his legs, and he's still effectively making these passes and throws. And that's where I think the biggest difference between him and Carson Wentz was. Because Carson Wentz got banged up or rattled, everything got erratic. When Jalen Hurts is banged up and rattled, everything is still calm, cool, and collective, and we're still productive as a football team. And that's where I think you finally say, I can relax and give this guy $50 million per year because that's my franchise quarterback.
Let me ask you this, just kind of piggybacking off that point, Connor. You talked a little bit about how they just really haven't had to throw the ball in these games, at least throw the ball in an essence of staying in the game, right? Or throwing the ball, a serious passing game so far. They haven't had to do that. He's totaled 121 yards versus San Fran in the air, 154 versus the New York Giants in the air. But once again, being fair, he didn't have to throw the ball that much. Are there any concerns about him having to shake off rust against a Kansas City team that should be able to score a little bit more points than the 7 points in each game that's been scored so far, given the talent on the other side of the field, of course? Are there any concerns with him being able to throw with that injury on the throwing shoulder?
Look, my hat's off to what the San Francisco 49ers are able to accomplish in the secondary with the guys that they have, because none of those guys were heralded prospects or guys that you would know going into that game without learning about them the week prior. It's kind of the same thing here with Kansas City. They're relying on a lot of young guys and guys that I don't think are going to be capable of handling what A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert's going to throw at them. I mean, of course, you always worry about Russ, but I do think he needed like this kind of break from the Super Bowl from the NFC Championship to the Super Bowl to readjust that shoulder, because it's definitely was still bothering him, and you could tell with his body language when he come off the field after offensive drives. So I don't know if he'll be. I don't think it's going to be any rust. I just think he needed this time to get that shoulder. It's probably. I think if you ask him, he won't tell you the truth. But if you were one-on-one with him without a recording device, he'd probably tell you he was about 70% on his shoulder.
Yeah.
I would imagine he would say something like that. I think that extra week just probably gets you up to at least 90. So, and that's what if you get him at 90, that's going to be great because you got Trent McDuffie, you got some unheralded guys on the other side of Kansas City. I mean, their veteran guy is Justin Reed. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think this is the matchup that you really want to take advantage of through the air, because I just don't see anybody on that side that can compete with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. That's especially how they're playing right now.
Yeah. So going off of that, you just brought up the wide receivers. We know the Eagles are more than capable of playing smash mouth type of football on the ground. Do you look for them to run on Kansas City, or like you just said, do you think they're going to try to attack them through the air with Jalen's arm?
I think they would prefer to do a balanced attack, because I don't other than Chris Jones, I know Frank Clark's still productive, but I mean, when you're looking at this Kansas City defense, they have good linebackers, but I don't trust that Steve Spagnuolo's scheme, and I think they would. I think the Eagles' offense would look to exploit it. To be honest with you, especially having some backhand type knowledge through the system back in the days, because Spagnuolo is obviously with the Eagles too as well, right, with Andy Reid. So I mean, I think you would want to exploit it on the ground and through the air, so you can open up play action and open up the RPOs for Jalen Hurts. But I expect a balanced approach. I mean, they really have unleashed Kenny Gainwell this postseason, and that's intentional. Like, Miles Sanders isn't 100%, but they know that even at 80%, Miles Sanders is still productive, as you saw against the 49ers. But still, I think they really like unleashing the fresh legs of Kenny Gainwell and getting Boston Scott in there for the bruiser type carries real quick. And I really do think they like using their run game because of how fresh. Yeah, I just gotta say, Kenny Gainwell's so fresh right now. I mean, he's running like crazy. He's surprising most of you guys out there. And
Yeah.
I always knew he had it in him. I'm glad the opportunities are finally getting there for him. But
Yeah,
his legs are so
he's doing
fresh
it all.
his legs are
Yeah.
just so fresh. They're gonna exploit that. I saw some post today that somebody picked him to be Super Bowl MVP and put $2,000 on it. And their payouts 300K if he wins. It's not a bad. It's really not a bad bet. It really isn't.
It's not a bad bet, but I always see those slips of the wager price, and I'm like, man, how do you just have 2 G's lying around to just throw on a moonshot?
Kenny G.
type of-
Oh yeah, you got to be related to him or something, and got some kind of inside info. But I really think I think there's merit to it because I really think that Eagles like the fact that no team really knows what Kenny Gainwell offers them because there wasn't much to go off of this year to say, hey, this is how the Eagles use Kenny Gainwell. There's no tape on that.
Right.
It's all unexpected. We're all like, whoa, what's going on?
No.
So I think they like that secret point of attack, and I think they're going to use it. But on the other side of the ball, Kansas City does the same thing on the offense with their guy that you would never think, Jared McKinnon. I mean, he's one of the touchdown leaders the last couple of months. So tit for tat, maybe Kansas City would be the team that could prepare for something like that better than anybody. But I keep an eye on him, man. I'm telling you, they think that he's a secret weapon for them right now that nobody knows about, and they're going to keep deploying him.
So with that,
I showed a. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say I showed you my ticket earlier. I laid a Kenny G touchdown in this game. It's funny. My fiance actually works with his girlfriend in South Philly at Jefferson.
It's funny. I'm in his. I don't know if you guys are. I don't know if you guys know about Grand Theft Auto roleplay. Kenny has his own. Kenny has his own server, and I'm in his server. So I play with him. I'm a cop in his server. I'm a big time cop in his server, and he's a big time criminal.
his yards are set at 19.5, the over under. So I might.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, smash that over. If you don't smash that over, that's free money. They're giving you free money.
I know. I'm probably going to by tomorrow before the line changes. But with that said, maybe he's your pick for this question. But which skill position player do you think gives Kansas City the most problems on Sunday?
Oh no, AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
No, AJ Brown 100%. They're saving him for this moment. Yeah, no, I would not be surprised if he has a TO like Super Bowl performance. He's ready. I'm telling you, he's frustrated. He really wants to put on a show. This is his time to shine. When all the lights are on him, this is what he's always wanted. This is what he never felt like he got in Tennessee. Right. And that's why I think they were always so far apart in conversations money-wise, because he wanted to be the guy. He didn't want to be Derrick Henry's sidekick. He doesn't want to be Jalen Hurts' sidekick either. He wants to be on the stage and perform. And I really think this is the game that he's going to do it, and they're going to let him do it too.
Love to hear that. I love to hear that. Taking it to the trenches, because that's where a lot of the talk has to come from anytime you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. But looking at this Eagles offensive line, they've already been able to neutralize teams like the Giants with Dexter Lawrence in the middle. You had the 49ers with arguably the best, not even arguably, the best front seven in football, right? With Fred Warner and Nick Bosa on the line there. How confident are you that the Eagles offensive line is going to be able to neutralize the likes of Chris Jones, Frank Clark, that defensive line that the Kansas City Chiefs are bolstering up over there?
They do have an underrated defensive line. They got Carlos Dunlap too, who's playing well for them this year. I just think the way the Eagles offensive line is rolling, there's talk that this is the best O-line of all time, and it's a fair debate, to be honest with you. Everybody is rated in the top 10 by PFF on this offensive line. The best thing about the Eagles matchup is that the best player on the Kansas City's defensive line, if you neutralize him, Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap kind of ineffective after you neutralize this guy, is Chris Jones. And who better to neutralize him than the interior of Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, and Isaac Seumalo? And especially since Landon Dickerson's fine. He's playing. He's just going to wear a brace. So it does play in the Eagles' advantage that their O-line is this good in the interior. But I will say, what nobody's talking about, I understand the Eagles had 70 sacks this year. I understand how great that front seven is. Again, after the passer. Guess who has a strong interior too? Kansas City. Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Tyler Smith. The guy that – not Tyler Smith. Name's falling off of mine. They just got him in the second round this year, Smith. But he's really good at right guard too. They have a really strong interior offensive line. And where they're weak is that they're bookend tackles. A lot of guys could know Orlando Brown Jr. because of his name. He's overrated. He struggles big time with speed rushes. Josh Sweat is looking at a good game. Andrew Wiley, the right tackle on the other side, is not a big known guy either. Hassan Reddick, he's looking at that matchup and licking his lips right now too. So at least the Eagles have the outside options, but the inside is gonna, it's gonna be tough paving, just like it will be for Kansas City too. Those guys are really good up front.
Your floor, Dylan.
Oh, my bad. So speaking of, dude, we're talking about level of competition here. And there's been a lot of talks from outsiders about this Eagles road, and you mentioned it earlier, and it's been really all regular season. The Eagles aren't battle tested. They haven't beaten anybody. Wait till they get to the playoffs, and then they do, and they run through teams, 68-14, 69-14, and now it's still, they have the easiest road to the Super Bowl. Talk to us about their test versus Kansas City defensively against Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and what the Eagles will have to stop or slow down to win this game.
They're going to have to slow down Travis Kelce. They can't let him run rampant. Once he runs rampant, it seems like it's always over for that opposing team once Travis Kelce gets into his bag. I would double cover him and let them beat me with your wide receivers because Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, they're not beating you. So I would do whatever you got to do to double Travis Kelce, maybe even I think James Bradbury and a safety would be a perfect combo on Travis Kelce. But figure something out. You just got to figure something out with Travis Kelce because if you neutralize him, it's hard for Mahomes to be Mahomes without his top guy. And I just don't trust those wideouts to get it done for him against his Eagles secondary. So whatever I would do, all hands on Travis Kelce. Talk to Jason Kelce this whole entire week of how he would game plan against his brother and get it done because that's what you got to do to win this game. And Pat Mahomes is great and everything. He will make plays to get it done, especially with that. I have to give credit to what their running backs are doing. They're 7th-round pick, Isaiah Pacheco, the guy that is really coming on strong for them lately, and then Jared McKinnon's one of the touchdown leaders in last month. So he will get it done with those guys too if Travis Kelce gets neutralized. Yeah. But is it going to be enough to stop against the Eagles? What they're going to be able to do scoring? No.
So tell us, man, is it enough? Give us a score prediction, and if the Eagles win, who is the Super Bowl MVP?
All right, so I got the Eagles winning. I'm not obviously you got to go with the Birds here, but I'm confident about this game. I really am. I think you keep disrespecting them. Look, I heard the same crap in 2017. The Eagles had an easy road. Matt Ryan choked in the end. If it wasn't for that, or it wasn't, they always thought it was some kind of push from Jalen Mills. There was always an excuse for that Falcons game because Keanu Neal's knee. And then they go to the NFC Championship game and they play Case Keenum, and I hear the same thing then too. And then they go to the Super Bowl and win that way. If they go to the Super Bowl, people are going to find another excuse to hang on to because they're so mad that their ass is sitting at home and then it's getting stale on that couch and they're watching the Eagles have fun right now. I completely get the envy. I do. I understand it, guys. It's understandable, especially if you're a Cowboys fan. It's 27 years? Yeah, that couch has definitely got your ass in debt. Yeah, that couch definitely has your ass in debt in it. I understand. I totally understand the envy there. But I don't care what anybody's got to say. This Eagles team doesn't care what anybody's got to say. That ring is official. That Super Bowl trophy is official. You don't put an asterisk on it because you win because you beat the crap out of opponents that weren't worthy enough to be there. That the reason why the Eagles were the number one seed was to secure an easier path. Number one seeds do that, so they win that many games in the season. They aim for the number one seed because it's the easier path in the postseason every fucking year. That's football. We're just living in a social media era where everybody's all feeling centric and they live off of the hot takes, what they say on social media. That's not what football's about. Football's about securing the number one seed and getting that home field advantage and then making your path to the Super Bowl easier so you can get that championship. That's what the Eagles did, so I'm sorry they did their job.
Yeah, now they want the neutral site conference championship games going forward.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Funny, man. But
that's crazy how much that's crazy how much the Eagles and the Eagles fans make a difference.
Yep.
Super Bowl MVP. Did you say?
I'm getting AJ Brown.
AJ Brown. Okay.
I think it's gonna be AJ. They really locked the beast up. They have locked the beast up this postseason, and you see his frustration. And I'm telling you, it's the biggest stage, and I think he honestly, if you put the cameras on him, he'd be the biggest star of this team. It's his first year in Philly. I think he's warming up to the team still, but once he gets the Super Bowl ring, and once he gets this trophy, once he gets his MVP thing, you're going to see the real AJ Brown with this. I'm all Philly, like I'm this, I'm that. He's going to be the biggest star on the team. I just think he needed this moment, this coming out party in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage to secure the Eagles their second ring would really do that, and that's why I think it's going to happen.
I like it, man.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Nothing else from me, man. All I've got to say is you got me extra fired up here, Connor.
Let's go.
I'm ready to go run through a wall, my man. We need another one. I saw you flash it. I saw you flash it, Dylan. We gotta get another one of these, man. We gotta get.
We need two. At least two right now.
Yes, sir.
Hey, let me ask you that. Let me ask you one more question just regarding that. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but how big would that be to win 2 Super Bowls within 6 seasons here in Philadelphia after not winning a Super Bowl ever, right? We've had NFL championships, but never winning a Super Bowl before that 2017 season.
I mean, it would cement Howie Roseman as the best executive in sports in Philadelphia history. Literally. Like, without a doubt. In Philadelphia history, like sports history. Best executive ever, because the one that nobody wanted, the one that everybody doubted, and the one that took 2 teams with rookie quarterback contracts and made them into Super Bowl winning championship teams. Yeah. That's the best executive ever in Philadelphia sports history. And a very rich town, a sports town. He would cement himself as that. That's what it would mean. That's how epic it would be.
That's incrediable.
He would be the guy that everybody hated, the guy that everybody wanted to fire when everything goes bad. Told them to shut the fuck up. I got you 2 Super Bowl rings. That would cement you at the top. Sorry for the language. I just, it's Super Bowl week, guys.
No, you're good, man. Super Bowl week. Let it out. Let it out, man.
He would be the best executive in Philadelphia sports history if they won the Super Bowl, second Super Bowl ring. It would cement it.
Hey, the script's been written.
The script is leaked.
I saw that though, 37-34. I mean, if they go down, if they're down 24-13 going into the half, people are gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah. I'll be one of them for sure.
Me too.
But guys, with that said, thank you so much to Connor for coming on. Check him out on Twitter at Conor Myles, Eagles Unfiltered podcast, and he writes for SI Now. Don't forget to check all of our shows out at DSM_media on Twitter. The link tree in our bio will take you to every social media platform we are available on. For myself, for Scotty, for Connor, and for DSM Media, go Birds. Happy Super Bowl.
Go Birds.
Rest of your night.
Birds.